Hello everyone, hope you're having a peaceful day. Today a heartwarming tale of quiet fear, new life, and two hearts trying to be brave together. What happens when a man who thought his biggest choices were behind him suddenly hears the softest promise of tomorrow? Tonight we sit beside Ly Tu Tien and Jack on the very first day after their world quietly shifted, and we listen as worry and wonder try to share the same small house. The night after Tu Tien told Jack she was pregnant was a thin blanket of sleep laid over a thick mattress of thoughts. In the front room, Jack sat alone at the kitchen table. The lamplight drew a circle around him. A chipped mug of tea gone cold, a folded clinic paper, his glasses pushed up on his forehead. Outside that circle, the house was shadow and quiet, pregnant. The word sat in his chest with a surprising weight. It carried two feelings, like children holding hands. He saw flashes in his mind, a tiny hand gripping his finger, soft breaths in the dark, the warmth of being called something like Dad again. He had thought that part of life was over, that his days would be made of calm routines and slow evenings. He thought of Tu Tien's thin wrists, the way she pushed herself too hard, the old hurt in her eyes when she spoke of the man who had thrown her out. He thought of bills, doctors, the way the world stared at a woman who dared to start again. "Can I keep them safe?" he whispered into the empty room. "Her, the baby, Anna. Can I really do that?" He rose and walked to the doorway. In the dimness, he saw them. Anna, a tangle of limbs and cotton, and beside her, Tu Tien, on her side, one hand curved protectively over her abdomen. Gently, Jack pulled the thin blanket higher over her shoulders. "I'm worried too," he said in his heart, "but we're not doing this alone anymore." Back at the table, he turned the clinic paper over. The back was blank. He reached for a pencil. "Dear little one," he wrote, "I don't know what you'll call me. Maybe Uncle, maybe Grandpa, maybe just Jack. But I want you to know from the beginning, you are coming into a house that didn't expect you, but is already making room." He paused, then added, "Your mother is stronger than she looks. Life has not been kind to her, but she has remained kind anyway. She is afraid tonight. So am I. But we are both here, willing to try." He signed it with a simple J, folded the paper, and slid it into an empty jar on the shelf. "One day," he murmured, "you can read that, and we'll both remember how small and brave this beginning felt." Only then did he lie down on the old couch, his body tired, his mind finally loosening its grip on worry. Morning came in soft gray stripes through the thin curtains. The rooster crowed somewhere beyond the trees. A bicycle rattled down the dirt road. Out in the field, a neighbor called to his cow in a half-sung scold. Inside, the air smelled faintly of rice and last night's tea. The house held that hush of early day, when yesterday's troubles haven't had time to get dressed. Tu Tien woke to the feeling of a small heel pressing into her ribs. "Ouch," she whispered, then smiled. "Sorry, Grandma," Anna mumbled without opening her eyes. "I was chasing the baby in my dream." "The baby?" Tu Tien asked softly. Anna's eyes fluttered open. He was very fast, but I had longer legs. Maybe let him rest a little, Tu Tien said. "He has a long trip before he gets here." Anna nodded solemnly, then rolled over and wrapped her arms around the rabbit. As quietly as she could, Tu Tien slipped out of bed and padded to the front room. Jack was already at the stove, coaxing a flame to life under the kettle. He wore a check shirt, sleeves rolled. His hair, touched with gray at the temples, was still damp from the pump outside. When he heard her step, he turned. "Morning," he said, his voice gentle, careful, as if the word itself might break. "Morning," she replied, tying her hair back. Did you sleep? A little, he admitted. You? She thought of the dreams that had visited her. Old arguments, doors closing, a baby's cry she could not find. Enough, she said. The kettle will do the rest. He smiled and reached for 2 cups. As the water began to hum, they stood side by side for a moment, not speaking, simply sharing the same small circle of warmth. I've been thinking, he began at last. That sounds dangerous, she said, a faint smile tugging at her mouth. He chuckled. Maybe so, but I was thinking, we don't have to decide everything today. I feel like I do, she whispered, like the whole world is standing at the foot of our bed asking, well, what are you going to do? Jack set 1 cup in front of her and sat at the table. The world can wait, he said. It's been rushing you your whole life. It can stand outside and fidget for a while. She joined him, fingers wrapped around the warm ceramic. I'm glad you're happy, she said softly. At least a little. You can tell, he asked. You smile with your eyes, she said, even when your mouth is trying to be reasonable. Yes, he admitted. I am happy, the kind of happy that scares me, because it feels like something I could lose if I'm not careful. That's the worst kind, she murmured. But I am also worried, Wenjin, he went on. I worry about your health, about money, about how tired you already are. I worry about people talking, he hesitated. I even worry about myself, about whether I can be good enough for all of you. You? She asked, startled. You're the one who rescued us. He shook his head gently. You rescued me too. It's easy to hide in work or routines. It's harder to show up at the table every day with your heart in your hands. She thought about that, letting the truth of it settle. So what do we do? She asked. We start small, he said. Today we eat breakfast. We tell Anna a little more in words she can hold. We go back to the clinic when they tell us. I can call the city, talk to an old friend about some consulting work, something I can do from here to bring in more money without leaving you alone too much. I don't want to keep you from enjoying your retirement, she protested. Enjoyment, to me, he said gently, looks a lot like you not worrying about the price of eggs. Her face softened. And tonight, he added, if you're not too tired, we can look at that little back room. Just look. Just imagine a cradle there one day. Her heart gave a small, painful, hopeful squeeze. I don't know if this is wise, she said. He reached across the table, palm up. Neither do I, he admitted. But when I imagine a future, you and Anna are in it. And now there is this tiny someone knocking on the door. I can't pretend I don't hear it. She looked at his hand, then placed hers in it. All right, she said quietly. We'll take today. Their fingers curled together, not in a grand pledge, but in the gentle, practical way of people who have washed many dishes side by side. A small yawn sounded from the doorway. Is the baby awake yet? Anna asked, rubbing her eyes. Probably, Jack said. Babies like to wake up early and demand snacks. Anna walked over and put her ear carefully against Tu Tien's stomach. I can't hear him, she said. That's because he's still very tiny, Tu Tien replied, stroking her hair. Anna straightened, face serious. Then I will talk louder, she decided. She leaned in again. Good morning, baby. Today we are having rice and vegetables. You can't have any yet, but I will tell you how it tastes. Jack exchanged a glance with Tu Tien over the top of her head. Something in both of them eased. Sometimes joy did not arrive all at once. Sometimes it slipped in quietly, wearing the voice of a child. The day moved on in its simple way. Jack fixed a loose hinge on the back door. Tu Tien washed clothes at the pump, pausing more often, aware that her body already felt a little more precious. Anna turned a cardboard box into a baby school, lining up her stuffed animals to help teach the baby about colors later. After lunch, when the heat grew thick, they all rested. Later, when the sun had dropped enough to be kind, Jack and Tu Tien stood in the doorway of the back room. For years, it had been a holding place for things that didn't belong anywhere else. Old pots, a cracked mirror, a stack of newspapers tied with string. Dust floated in the beam of light from the small window. "It's small," Tu Tien said. "So are baby," Jack replied. He could already see it, a simple cradle by the window, a chair for long nights, a shelf with a few well-loved toys. Not perfect, but theirs. "Just looking," he reminded her. "No promises, no pressure." She stepped inside, bare feet whispering on the boards. Her heart fluttered, a mix of longing and fear so strong it made her sway. Jack was beside her in an instant. "Easy," he murmured. "Sit for a moment." She let him guide her to an old crate by the wall. "I'm all right," she said, though her voice shook. "I know," he replied. "We're just taking today, remember?" She nodded, tears prickling. "I keep hearing his voice," she blurted. "My ex-husband, saying I was trouble, that I ruined his life, that no one in their right mind would choose me and a child." Jack knelt so they were eye to eye. "Listen to me," he said gently but firmly. "I am in my right mind. I have read profit and loss sheets and risk reports. I know how to count costs, and still I am choosing you and Anna. And if it is given to us, this baby," she swallowed. "What if something goes wrong?" she whispered. He took her hands. "Then we will grieve together," he said. "The world will move more slowly for a while, and we will still be a family. Your past doesn't get to write the ending here." Her shoulders trembled, then slowly relaxed. From the hallway came a small, urgent whisper. "Can I come in now?" Anna asked. "I have a surprise." Jack opened the door wider. Anna stepped in, hiding something behind her back. "What's this?" he asked. She grinned and brought her hands forward. It was a small bundle wrapped in a dish towel. Inside, carefully arranged, were her treasures. A smooth river stone shaped like a heart, a slightly chipped teacup with a faded flower, and a blunt purple crayon. "This is the baby's first toy box," she announced. "The stone is so he knows we love him. The cup is for when he wants tea like Grandma, and the crayon is for when he wants to draw his own sky." Tu Tien's hand flew to her mouth. "Oh, Anna," she breathed. The girl looked suddenly uncertain. "Is it okay? I can find a better crayon. This one is short." Jack felt his throat tighten. "It's perfect," he said, "because it's from you." He glanced at Tu Tien, and in her eyes he saw it. The shift from being simply terrified to being terrified and hopeful at the same time. That evening, after supper and one extra story for the baby, the house settled into its night sigh. On the front step, under a sky sprinkled with stars, Jack and Tu Tien sat side by side. The air smelled of damp earth and wood smoke. "I called my friend in the city," Jack said quietly. "The one who still runs the company." "And?" she asked. "He thinks I'm crazy to be so happy," Jack replied with a soft laugh. "But he also said I can take on a small consulting project from here, enough to help, not enough to pull me away too much." "You didn't have to do that," she murmured. "I wanted to," he said. "It makes me feel useful, like I can put all those years of meetings to work for something that truly matters to me." She watched his profile in the dim light. "When I was younger," she said slowly, "I thought love was grand gestures and big words, flowers that wilted, promises that didn't last." "And now?" he asked. "Now," she said, "it looks like you making phone calls and fixing hinges and being willing to listen to the baby's heartbeat with me, even if it scares you." He nodded. "Life has a way of teaching us the quieter definitions," he said. For a moment, they simply breathed together, the night wrapping around them like a soft shawl. Inside, Anna turned over in her sleep and muttered, "No, Bunny, you can't have all the cookies," then settled again. Jack smiled. "Do you know what picture I'd keep from today?" he said softly. "If I could only keep one." "What?" she asked. "You in that little back room," he said, "sitting on the crate with Anna's toy box on your lap, light coming in the window, my hand on the door frame because I still don't quite believe I'm allowed to stand there. That's the image I'd choose." She felt tears rise, but this time they came easier. "Doesn't look like much," she said. "To me," he replied, "it looks like a home. If this day were a picture on a screen, that is what you might see. A simple room, a woman holding her child's offerings, a man in the doorway, all three framed in soft afternoon light. Quiet, ordinary, and full of more love than it knows what to do with." As they went inside, Tu Tien paused in the hallway, her hand resting briefly on the door to the back room. "Little one," she whispered so softly only her own heart could hear, "we are scared and we are tired, but we are trying. For you, for us. Be patient with us as we learn." The night answered with crickets and the distant hush of the river, and somewhere deep inside, beneath skin and bone and story, a tiny life kept growing, unaware of past hurts, unconcerned with future worries, just beating, simply and fiercely, one small rhythm at a time. On nights like this, when the house finally grows quiet and our own thoughts grow loud, it helps to remember a simple truth. Life does not stop offering new beginnings just because our hands have grown a little slower or our hearts have a few more cracks. Sometimes the bravest thing we can do is let ourselves be loved right where we are, without waiting to become less fragile. That lesson wraps around this whole story. Next time, we'll walk with them into town, where news travels faster than the wind, and see how neighbors, rumors, and perhaps even a familiar face from the past respond to this fragile new beginning. In this gentle chapter, the morning after Tu Tien's pregnancy news, quiet worry and fragile hope share the same small house. Jack spends a sleepless night at the kitchen table, writing a secret note to the unborn baby and wondering if he is strong enough to protect this new little family. At dawn, simple moments, tea, soft jokes, Anna talking to the baby, begin to steady their hearts. Jack suggests they take one day at a time, even as he quietly arranges consulting work to support them. Together they peek into the cluttered back room and start to imagine it as a nursery. Anna creates a toy box of her treasures for the baby, gently turning fear into tenderness. That evening, on the front step under the stars, Tu Tien and Jack quietly choose to welcome this late, unexpected gift of life.